Hello and welcome to the Low Code Campfire. This is episode number 196 for May 23rd, 2025. It's an Open Lines Friday. I am Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantinap, and will be your guide and host for the next hour. This is an event that we do every Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time, where we get together and well, just enjoy each other's company quite a bit. But we share techniques and challenges, experiences, how-tos with Plantinap. But all skill levels are welcome, whether you're a beginner or an expert or anywhere in between. With Plantinap or as a developer, we'd be happy to have you here. We record all of these and put them on YouTube. So youtube.com/plantinap will get you to all of these hundreds of episodes of this and the Low Code Cafe. We advise that you subscribe to that, hit the alarm bell on the subscription so you know as soon as we post new content. We run this agenda. We stop and say hello because we're a friendly group, and then we'll go around the campfire. Anything that was submitted in advance or you have as a first call, want to raise your hand and get in on a problem you're facing, we'll deal with that first, and then we go into some of these other topics and whether it's a contribution to our community website or feature requests, whatever. And then after an hour, we go into our Afterglow segment. That's where we turn off the recording, begin to celebrate the weekend a little bit, and just kick back and enjoy each other for a few more minutes. So do hope you join us for any or all of that. Do jump in, show and tell, raise your hand, use the chat window. There's lots of different ways to engage with us. You can submit questions and topics in advance, either by using this QR code, or you can send an email to support@plantinap.com. And if you request that it's something you want to cover in Campfire, I'll try and do a little research in advance and then get it onto the agenda. Hello, all. Welcome.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Dale and everybody.
Hello.
Hey.
Good morning.
Okay, as is our custom, we have first call. What's on your mind? While you think about whether or not you want to raise your hand, Eric, I am going to cover just very quickly the one that you submitted in advance, and I have a few other things that have been done since last week. So we have some things to talk about if nobody has a first call. But if you do have a first call, let's get into it. I actually have a very important question. Is my background correct now? Is it flipped the right way?
It always looked fine to me, Dale. I don't know what the problem was.
Well, I changed some hardware. It flipped. Maybe Patrick knows best.
It looks the same as it always does to me.
Good. Last week, I think I was backwards and it was making some people crazy.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
They're boycotting this week. Okay. All right. So I'm going to cover a fun one. This is submitted in advance. Eric made the request, how to disable a dropdown as soon as a selection is made. Is that, and Eric, don't mean to put you on the spot, but is that truly the thing that you were trying to solve?
Oh, hi Dale. This is the first time I joined Campfire. I'm from Honduras. I'm kind of new and well, I'm very new in Planting App. The question was, I need to disable a dropdown every time the value on another dropdown changes. That's the
Ah,
question.
well, both of those are quite easy and very similar, but let's do it. We'll just do it live here. We have a website, campfire.plantinap.com, and we put techniques in. So anything that things that we discuss, things that might be useful, we put them in here, and then you can go back to them and take a look at them. So um, I'm going to go ahead and do it here as a contribution, something that you can go back and look at, and also this video as well. But I'm just going to take a minute and do it up nice here as we go. So I'm going to add a page to, and if anybody ever wants to make a contribution to this, it's a shared site. So I'm going. You're welcome to. This will kind of show the pattern of how we do these. So I'm going to add a page here on the site, one of my contributions, and this is going to be, we'll call it the disable a drop-down one, and I'm going to make sure this is, yeah, by default it's available to everyone. So we'll have a page where we can demonstrate this technique. And I'm going to add an action form here, and we'll get started on it. DNN adds this HTML block that I don't want, so I'm going to delete that out, and then here we go, action form. And I'm going to start out with a blank form. And since the scenario is 2 drop-downs, we'll start with adding a drop-down to the page. Drop-downs has automatically come in with a couple of items in the list, so we'll just use that default thing. But I'm going to call this drop-down 1, and since we're doing 2 drop-downs, I will just clone this field and call this second one drop-down 2. To start with, this is all we're going to need to demonstrate this technique. So we have 2 different drop downs on the page. We can pick items, but when you pick something, they both remain enabled. You could go back and pick something else. So this is what we're going to try to solve, and it's actually, again, easier than I thought it was going to be. I like to give forms a name, so this will be our disable a drop-down form. And there is a feature here called with bind expression, and actually I think we can do it right here. In bind expression, you can evaluate this enable, whether or not it can be turned on, and this is a little different than I did it in the practice that I get ready for this, but I'm going to try and do it right here. The ID for the drop down 1 is this value here, drop down 1. And as soon as this takes on, as soon as they pick a value, this should end up being something that we can use to enable. So if we're going to put brackets around it because we want the value of drop down 1 is equal to blank, we want it to be enabled. But if it's not blank, then we want it to be disabled. It might be just as simple as this. So let's try it. So we save it. I've got it open in a different tab here, so I'll just refresh. So it starts out as empty. I pick something, and immediately it goes to locked. Was that you want this to stay locked, so you can go on and make other choices, but you just want this one to stay locked. Is that the scenario, or was it slightly different, Eric?
Okay, the thing is that in drop down number 1, I have, for example, country. No, every time I change the country, I need to disable drop down number 2.
Disable number 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so that's a very similar technique. We can just say on this bind expression, instead of doing it here, we can go to drop down number 2's bind expressions and do it here. So if drop down 1 is empty, then this will be enabled. As soon as it's not empty, it's disabled. So we make a selection here, and dropdown 2 becomes disabled.
I think that works for me.
Okay. So just covering it real quick, these bind expressions, there's lots of things that you can do with it, and these are dynamic. So it's as soon as you as soon as dropdown 1 changes, this enable thing is going to get evaluated. So if it's true, then the um, then the field will be enabled. And if this and it evaluates to false, then it will be disabled. And so you could quickly use that.
Okay. Thank you,
Um,
Dale.
Absolutely easy enough. Um, Good. Well, that was easy to knock out. So let's move on. Did anybody else have something we want to jump onto before I just keep going down my list? So we have a few more people join. Good morning, all. Um, there was a discussion earlier in the week, and reminded me it'd just be worthwhile to give you guys a heads up on it, especially maybe Ben. But behind the scenes, I know that Bogdan and crew are working on a better approach to our action engine. And really, this isn't changing the functionality at all. The intent is to standardize it. So anyone familiar with the tables behind Plantain app, depending on whether you're doing a form or a grid or um, a workflow, actions within execute actions. All these actions are being stored in different places throughout our tables in the database, and it's been working that way for a long time and very reliable. But it means that they're kind of all over the place, makes it hard to find them. So we are working on putting all the actions in one place in a nice normalized table. So anybody who's wanting to search for actions after that change comes to pass, and of course this will be a couple of versions down the line, they'll all be in one place, not hidden in 3 or 4 or 5 different places. So just kind of a heads up, that's coming someday, a version or two out. Ben says, yeah, hand up, hand down.
Sorry, I was looking for the thumb up reaction and I hit the raise hand.
Yes, and I called out Ben because he built an action finder, among other things, the ability to search through your database and find things. And so now we're going to move everything, and
And I'm gonna have a lot of work to do.
you have work to do. But you gave the thumbs up. You must think it's a better way to
Well,
approach.
yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely agree that that does make things a lot easier. Like you said, you're not hunting in like, two, three, four different tables to find actions for forms, grids, and whatnot. It does mean I have to rewrite some things, but not a biggie. Whatever. I'll figure it out as long as the changes are documented, then at least
Well,
I'll be aware of it.
that's another interesting topic we'll get to in just a minute. Eric had a follow-on question, so I'm going to just mention these conditions in enable. There's quite a bit of things that you can do with them. So and these are they use JavaScript syntax if you're trying to figure it out. So there's the ability, for example, to add ors with a double pipe. So you can say A or B is true, then it would succeed. So um, you could do something like this. Um, so under this scenario, if dropdown 1 was blank, or if it was XYZ, some particular value, then this would be true. And then you can also do double ampersand for um, and. So yes, there are ability to add multiple conditions using that kind of structured logic. And there's some other ways too, if you really need to. Uh, no, yeah, this is the main way. So hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, yep, good. All right. Um, so I'll do a mention here. Our next episode of Low Code Cafe is coming up on Wednesday. This is our now once monthly episode where we spend some time and do some preparation and present a topic. And so we're going to be focusing in on our action that lets you get the Google authorization bearer token. So how to install it, how to use it, maybe some of the things you can do with it. So now Ben really has his hands up. It's not just his thumb. So what do you got, Ben?
I don't know. I came late, so I apologize, but I don't know if you mentioned this. But with regards to those conditional statements, you had mentioned that on the bind condition that it's JavaScript, but I just wanted to point out, if you hadn't already, is that in other areas of conditions, it is not JavaScript, it is C# code. So you have to
Right.
be very aware of where you're putting your conditions. If it's a condition that's being evaluated at the client side, it's JavaScript. If it's a condition that gets evaluated at the server side, it's C#.
That's a really great nuance, and that becomes important because um, in many okay, it's going to end a little confusing. In many cases, it looks the if you're just doing a simple comparison, it looks the same. You could put that same condition that we had in our bind. It could be done in the show conditionally, enabled conditionally, which is done. This is done as you say, server side and before the the page actually renders.
Yep.
And
There are some differences. Like what you're highlighting there is a perfect example. Index of C# syntax is a capital I for index of. But if you were using that and you copied that into the bind, it would fail because JavaScript is case sensitive and the index of the I has to be lowercase because that's the syntax for JavaScript. So,
absolutely. Thanks for helping me explain that. And we've done a better job of trying to indicate which syntax in days and years gone by. It didn't say specifically this is C sharp or this is JavaScript, and it causes some confusion. So we've tried to indicate that, and so it's real important to take a look at these inline helps. And then if you're um, however you're looking up information, whether you're using a AI assistant or something like that, telling it that you're wanting to use C sharp syntax or JavaScript syntax will help you develop those conditions well. Great point. Um, and you covered very well. These bind expressions are all front end kinds of things. This is JavaScript that's living on your page, that's active as soon as you do something. So all these things are on change click or the value. All these things are JavaScript at the front end, and the dividing line. The other ones are C sharp content going on in the back end. Good. All right. Jumping around today, but we're getting there. So I'm going to talk about the how to get a Google authorization bearer token, which I think is a handy thing because Google has a ton of services, and it opens up the question. Google has a ton of services, and it's my intention to try and focus in on Google Drive, either reading files, writing files, seeing what files are out there in Google Drive. Um, but if there are use cases that, and I guess I could put this on the chat here. Um, if there are use cases, things that you want to do, think could be convenient in Google, and if it's something I can cover in the hour of Low Code Cafe, I'll try and focus in on that as well. But the main thing is just going to be about getting the token and showing that we can do some things with it through talking with server request. Ben says AdWords, and AdWords is that here on the list? Oh, if it's even analytics. I don't see it on this particular list. If you can find if you happen to look at the AP, find the API, and I can see if I can get into that a little bit. Be happy to do it. It kind of sounds like a fun one. We haven't done much of anything, I think, with AdWords. But there's lots of different things here that look kind of interesting. Google Sheets and Google Docs, and I see they have a secret. Where was it? There was a secret manager. That sounds like a fun one to try and figure out. So the YouTube ones. So I'll see where my curiosity takes me. But if there's anything that's on this list, I'll be happy to try and give it a try. Cool. And so yeah, Low Code Cafe, these are recorded and put out on YouTube channel as well. So if you happen not to make the episode, then next day it should be available. Yeah, we're still trying to get out our release candidate for version 1.27. Anybody playing with 1.27 and have any feedback issues or otherwise? The one of the biggest, I mean, there's a lot of different functionality that comes in there, but one of the biggest things that we're doing, and I mentioned this before, we've in 127 we're changing the everything about licensing. We're trying to make a lower cost product available, the starter plan, and so that we had to get serious about how we do licensing, and it brings a lot of features, and we're really trying to get this right before we roll it out because we don't want to inflict any problems on existing customers. So that's the main area of holdup. Lots of features are there, but and I guess while I'm talking about that, I'll also mention we are working very hard to we're reviving our Kanban process, the small things that add value quickly that you guys have been waiting for, and I'm seeing some of those work through. So when we get through with this, I think some of the things, particularly the Bootstrap 5 things that were missing when we introduced Bootstrap 5, things that we used to work in Bootstrap 3 don't work in Bootstrap. Some things like the on-grid loaded and our integration with tabs, these are things that are being actively worked on. So this will, getting this 127 approved and out the door will open the door to getting some of those other things that have been waiting a long time done.
A
And
question, Dale.
yes, please.
Is the release candidate stable enough that we could put it onto a production system? I've been playing with it on a test system, but I don't spend a lot of time.
I wouldn't advise it. A clone of a production would be lovely, but I wouldn't put it on a production system that you're not willing to go back. Yeah, it's I would for production systems, I would always advise to wait to the actual release.
Okay.
And I mean, it's always your judgment, right? But uh, some of the things that we've encountered is around licensing and you know, when you have when licensing fails at any level, you could have a situation where something doesn't work the way you would expect it to work, or doesn't work at all. So I mean, if you have tolerance for that and us helping you through that, then that'd be great. But it's
Well,
most people
what
don't.
I have is a production system that is very seasonal and it's off season right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I could, could get it and get some outside, eyes on it for people to do some testing, because we're in a sort of a test mode of new features we want to build for next year.
Mm.
But I can't justify risking for the client that, okay, we're going to have to do all those, the changes that they want me to do all over again or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So sounds like not a good candidate. All right. I got a question on, I think this was on our, it's actually something that came in on the community website. Uh, yes, it was. And so now we're kind of hitting a couple of things. There was a question about debugging asynchronous workflows, and thank you for everyone that reads along and plays along and makes suggestions. But because there was a question about debugging, and this is probably a pretty common thing, I made a Campfire contribution for it, right? So um, campfire.com, campfire.plantainapp.com, if you go to the contributions, you get this page and it shows all the things that we've added so far. So debugging techniques is the newest thing. That I've just added. If you hit go, you get to this one. And so, cutting to the end of what we did here, it shows that when you make some selections and hit show values, that we're displaying all the values in a JSON. So you can see, for example, that first name has a value of Dale and last name has a value of Warner. But also, um, send to department got the value of SLS for sales, which is great, but there was all these other tokens, the send to department text and send to department value, and whether or not it has children, and whether or not what the path is, and all these different things become available, and you don't really know it. And so the technique of this debugging shows how to find out all the things that are available in your context, how to generate this. So you as a developer, if you have a list of everything that's all the context variables that are available, you can dump them out. You can debug your low code using stuff like this. So the example in Campfire is available for you to look at. And by the way, if you're since we have someone new to the group today, I'll just mention, if you shoot me an email and say you want to be part of the Low Code Campfire, I'll set up a user ID for you, and you just have to promise not to change other people's low code, but you can go in, you'd have the ability to get in and take a look at how the form was set up and how the technique works. So uh, this ends up being a nice library of, if you want to do something and you remember that it's out here on Campfire, you can just copy and paste or do the same thing. Anyway, so that again is support@plantainapp.com if you want to, or you can put it on the chat if you want to. Just put your email on the chat to me and I'll include you. Anyway, so I recorded a video that shows how to do this technique, and it's here, linked here, so you can do that. And then this is the part I was kind of excited about. Um, I updated our documentation to include the actions that were part of this. So our documentation has been a little bit stale over the last couple of years. Um, it's good for what it is, but hard. It was very hard to change. And in recent weeks, one of our brilliant developers, Razvan Stan, made some changes so that the time between the way that we have to edit this and actually getting it published is now about 15 minutes, where it used to be 1 or 2 weeks, depending on whose attention you could get. So that just makes it very easy to get documentation out and done. And so as I was working on explaining this, I also managed to improve the documentation. So are these actions like context to JSON object and context to JSON array and our display error message. This one was actually already out there, but we're just improving it as we go. So it's a good news. So somebody mentioned, will that be documented when we change the action engine? Yeah, we'll we'll document where it is. Okay. So hopefully that debugging techniques will be something that will help someone. And again, thanks for playing along. The community dot, where is it? Where to go? Community.plantanapp.com is the place where you can ask questions that are not just to the community, excuse me, not just to support, but public. So uh, anyone who's following along on the forum will, and here's the follow along button again to subscribe to it. But if you're following along, you'll get notified when other people um, have a question, and we get a lot of people that it's not just the support team, but also our community that answers the questions as well. So sometimes that's faster, and sometimes it's better, but it's always useful to have the help, and I appreciate it. Okay. Um, let's see. So I guess before I move on, any questions about debugging techniques or anything that you think ought to be part of this? Favorite debugging techniques that you use?
I do have one similar to that, the context thing. Is the when you create how do I describe this? I receive a JSON in an application that I have, and I don't know what the elements are. I know there's a thing called attendees, and then the attendees has a list of attributes, and I don't know what the attribute names are, so I can't call it out specifically. But what I'm wondering is what I've learned from I think it was a ticket that that there's an index that can be used. So attendee, element one, element two, element three. Are those part of the context so that I could see what those are?
They are.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, if
So
you when you like, for example, the action that we would use to get started on that would be parse uh, JSON to into tokens. I think that's the. I want to make sure I say that name right. But um, when you parse something into tokens, now those tokens exist. So absolutely, you would be able to take a look at what's there. Let me find the action. Yeah, parse JSON into tokens. Whatever input JSON that you have. and call it J, then J would have all those different pieces available to you to take a look at.
But the value, the syntax that tells me what's the first element's label.
So let's play with this one for just a second. Do you happen to have a attendee structure at hand, or I can just make one up? If you do, that's great, and if it's not, that's not a problem.
Don, are you
Not
talking
really.
about the namespace?
Mm,
No, I'm receiving an order, and there's a number of possible um, attributes that are being passed to me, but I don't know what attributes are being passed. So instead of having some kind of a bunch of actions with, is this one of them that's being passed? Is this one being passed? What I'd like to do is just say, okay, what's the label of the first element I'm getting in the JSON? And then all I need to do is display that in a table. So it's a list of attendees. So you think of the name, first and last, and are they, what entree did they order? What course did they sign up for? Um, so those kinds of things are the labels, and then the values are, meat or fish, or um, course one or course two, or things like that. And I just need to put that into a label, but I don't know what those are. So I'm just trying to get at how do I get at what's the syntax for what's the first element of a JSON string? What's the first label in a JSON string? What's the first value of the JSON string? What's the second value of what's the second label in a JSON string, etc. And it's good for debugging when it says, oh yeah, well in this case I received this time the entree selection is in this list, but maybe next time it won't be. It's good to see it in debugging, but I need to do this programmatically so that um, I get the first element and then display it in a table, and the second element and display it in a table without knowing what those elements are in the JSON string.
so, yeah, here's some stuff. So here's just a sample JSON, unless you want to use your real one, right? Um, so let's.
Oh, you know what? It'd be great. Let me pull the thing up real quick. Take a sec.
Let's see.
Because it's not as it doesn't have the nested elements like what you just showed there. So let me see if I can't
Uh,
uh, and almost there. Sorry, didn't think about
that's all
that.
right.
And
That's fine.
you're
We're
right.
we're keeping on here while you do that.
Definitely is a good idea to show that. Let's see.
So I think this fully. I mean, just yeah. Let's take a look at the input JSON here. Let's do another one of these, and so this is JSON that I had Chat GPT make up of 3 attendees. And whenever, interrupt me whenever, Don, when you have yours, we'll do that. But it doesn't really matter what the JSON was, just as long as it's valid JSON array. So we had this JSON, so we can see it has Alice and Bob and Chloe. And then they have other properties like entree and selected class, and it made allergies up. That was fun. It did that all by itself. And allergies You know, we have dietary restrictions on this one and seat preference on that one. So it's kind of nice that they're all mixed up a little bit. The I
The thing about this list that's that I'm trying to get my head wrapped around is that you've got um, the the type of item it is a value of property name, whereas I'm trying to get at what's in the field property name because what I've got is well, I just put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Let's do it. And just confirming this is not um,
I have this array, and in the array of
it's for you.
attendees,
So good. This is a safe one. So we'll do this. Oops. I've got something that I didn't get at all here. Oh, attendees is a level above. We didn't get the whole JSON. So,
oh yeah, yeah,
but
sorry.
yeah, maybe we have another bracket here. Let's see if that's it. Yep. Nope.
Here, I
Uh,
tell you what, I'll give you the whole thing because there's it's an order, right? So the order is the person putting in the order has their name. It's got the code number, which is a bogus code number. So I guess I can give that to you. Let me just give you the whole thing that I get back, and we'll have to pull the attendees out of it.
yeah.
Uh, but
Actually, a very good, very common use case, and probably be useful for anybody to see.
there you go.
All right. So this
And so
is
it's mixed up a bit. You see some stuff in there, but uh, the the order is the person's name, the event,
yeah.
there's a code for what the event is, how much money that the event costs, and then a code to send back to the payment gateway to associate it with this record, this particular order. Those things all come in, and I know that those values are coming in, but then the attendee has an array of those things, and I don't know those
No,
things.
it's there.
So
So let's use yours in the example that I was building up here. So what I'm going to do is, I've done a workflow. I'm going to paste your JSON as the in JSON to this workflow. So we're just using whatever you provided. We're doing two actions. One is the parse JSON into tokens, and this is a very typical development process, right? We're going to start with what you have, and we're going to end with what you want, but we'll do it one step at a time. So uh, we're using a parse JSON into tokens. That's going to turn your JSON into something we can work with. And so we're taking the in JSON, the value of what came in, and we're creating J. We could call this anything, but I'm going to call it J. And then the debugging technique that we talked about is I want to be able to see all my tokens, everything that's in the context. So I'm using context to JSON array as the action. I am storing all of the context into a token into a new JSON called tokens, and I'm only including J. So this will limit only to those things. And when it gets to output, I'm outputting the token's value. So it's just a pretty short, sweet process. Let's run it and see what happens. So we get some JSON out of it. This is all of the tokens that are available to you in this process. I'm going to put it on another page so that we can compare it. So at the point where where those tokens were uh, created after the parse, there was something called J attendees, J email, nonce name. So all these tokens existed. And so you're concerned with J attendees, right? That this is the one
yes.
that you want to parse down to the next level. So we can use this information to improve our program a little bit, our workflow. So I'm going to insert in here and we'll do a second level parse and parse JSON into tokens. And so we're going to do that J attendees is the thing that we want to break apart into tokens. And
Right.
I'm going to call this A now. So A for attendees. We could call it attendees fully. It doesn't matter. I'm just being abbreviated here. So now the ones that I want to take a look at are the A tokens. And so we'll save and test that. So now we're just drilling down to the thing that we really wanted. And let's take a look at that. Um, so this is kind of the thing that you were talking about, that now we're starting to see A00 first name is Don. A00 itself is first name Don. A01 last name is Gingold. So this is getting you access to the name of the field and the value of the field. And then for record 2, this is a different record, right? You've got, let's go back to what you provided. Oh, this is all one attendee with different. So email employer affiliation. So the first property, the 0th property that you got was first name. The 1 property that you got was last name. The 2 property was email. 3 property is employer. 4 property is affiliation. And if you had multiple records, then this would go up from 0 to 1. Yeah, a little hard. I mean, yes, you can access it through those numerical properties, but a little difficult. So is it, first of all, are you still there?
Oh, yes, I'm there, and my head is spinning,
Okay.
trying to figure out how to
How to do something with that.
how to do something with this. Right, exactly.
All right, let's just curious. Well, and maybe this will demonstrate. I don't know. We'll see. So I'm using context to JSON array, and um, I want to try, see what it looks like with context to JSON object. And I want to take this same thing. Let's see what it looks like if we do that. So we're still taking A, and I'm going to store it into tokens object. See how this looks different. See if this looks any easier to use or not. Not really. I think I would have a tendency to try and build a list out of the.
That's where that's what I'm thinking too, is that the attendees is actually a list of JSONs. So I need to execute through a list and then do the conversion inside the list. And that should give me um, a set of tokens. And that's where I'm wondering, do I use the index value?
So this creates a mess here. So let's find where we are. So J attendees is essentially the list that we want to process through. And I'm gonna copy this to be able to see what it's going to be. So we have this list here that we want to do stuff with, J attendees. So create a list from JSON. The JSON that we want to use is we have an attendees list, and now let's use another debugging technique. For each list entry, we want to go, we were going through the list. The list name we were doing is attendees list, and every time so this is going to go through each item in attendees list, and we'll use the log event action to see what we have. So each time, for each row for each attendee that you get, will output the entire attendees list at this juncture, and that'll go into our log. And we'll leave this here. We're not going to use the JSON array thing yet, but we'll learn it again. So now let's take a look at our logs and see what we got. So now this looks a little bit better. At this point, we get an array that looks like this.
Right.
But these are all, it's
Yeah.
interesting, these are all separate elements. It would be,
I've argued that point with the app developer, and this is how he's sending it. And I agree, if this was a single JSON that had these items, then, well, I'm not, it's a different problem. So I'd have to figure out how to get those elements there. But now I do know that there's a list of JSONs, and in the list, I know that there's only one element in each JSON. That's what you have above where you're working. So that's what I'm struggling with, and I'm just trying to find a debugging technique to see, okay, what elements do I actually have so that I can figure out what the programming statement is going to be to to basically convert that into a simple table. All I really need to do is I need to put this into into a uh, into an HTML table where the first column is the label, and the second column is the value.
So this in itself is another list, right? This could be another list. I got off track a second looking for a what if scenario, but this in itself is a list, right? So that we could go through it. So let's do that. So at this point, attendees list is another list that we could parse through. So we can do create list from JSON. The JSON model is attendees list. This is the property list. And so now we can do a for each on that. So the list that we will go through is the attendee property list. And I'm going to do the same technique where we do the log event and just get out the current value of attendee property list. So now we go look at our logs. There they all are. So we have our first one that is four is broken apart, and then we have student $10. So attendee affiliation, we have value one is the field, or value zero is the field name. We have a field name and a value, right? And that repeats for each one of the things. And so if we were to capture these, we're good to go.
Got it.
And so at this point where we're working on the attendee property list, I think you can, if we were to JSON its tokens and parse this same thing. And I'm going to call this X because I'm lazy and I can't think of anything to put. So now we're going to have X put this above here so I can log it, but I think we get X:0 and X:1. Does that sound right?
I think so.
I think what you would actually get is the property names. field names.
Hmm.
I don't believe 0 would work. You would need to type in the actual X colon and then whatever the field name is because that's the way it was defined.
I'm afraid I may have sent us all on a rabbit hole, but
Uh,
on a rabbit hole. But a light bulb just went on when you showed the list that came in Notepad where it was structured, and then again, if you just look at a string, um, I don't. I'm not actually acting on each of the elements. I don't care that one element is called student sponsorship, for instance. All I want to do is convert this into a table. And as I look at that, I see that that JSON looks surprisingly like a table in HTML if I just did a regex on it.
hmm
Maybe that's all I need to do and not worry about it any further. But you've got me to the point where I can get this element out of it, which is the key thing for me, and a couple of great debugging techniques. So I, I'm happy to stop there and not try to pull every one of those elements in if you guys are.
Well, I'm almost happy. We I've got to know what we got here. So I'm going to get our X things and put them into tokens. Save this and make sure I did it right. So we parsed it into tokens. I'm going to turn those tokens back into an array so I see what we got. So this is giving us X. This is giving us taking X and put it into tokens. This is logging, in addition to logging the property list, it's logging them as tokens.
Okay.
I'm just interested in what we had there.
Yeah.
So we go now to logs and refresh. We had interesting. So Ben, you were absolutely correct. They were X and the value and the name, so you would need to know what they are. And then this illustrates one last thing um, that you have to be careful with when you do parse into tokens because tokens get created when you uh, when you use parse into tokens, tokens get created. If you do another parse into tokens, the ones from the previous parse into tokens might continue to exist. And so let's see if we start with just having first name, and then we have first name and well, these are all logged out of order. There's no guarantee in the logging order, but they continue to exist, and so it's a little bit implicit. You don't know that they're not being destroyed. They're getting created but not destroyed in each iteration. Anyway,
Right.
okay, so that was a fun topic. Glad that and yeah, parsing through JSON and getting it to do what you want it to do is, I mean, it's doable, but you typically just have to keep working layer by layer until you get to the part of the onion that you want to eat.
So even though the J attendees token is the inside of that is a JSON, it's also just a string. And
Yes,
so I can just do string manipulation. I could, again, do a regex on that, converting all of those brackets, et ceteras, into TRs and TDs, and boom, I've got my table.
absolutely. And if you're comfortable, it's really whatever tool of choice, right? Regex would do it. You could also do JavaScript that would transform it, whatever tool that you're
Oh,
happy to transform it with. And I think, our mutual intern would probably do either of those things for you, right? I have this and I want that, and get it to write
that's true.
script. Okay. So with that, we've come to the end of our hour, and another great. It's always best when there's questions, right? So I appreciate the questions and that we had something to dive into and work with. We will do this again next week. Don't forget Low Code Cafe on Wednesday if you're inclined. But we'll do this Low Code Campfire again on Friday. Thanks, everyone. Glad to see new faces. And we will see you next time. Hang on around for a few minutes for Afterglow if you have the time.